Okay. We'll call to order the regular board meeting of the Webster Groves School District. And initially, has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
If they have, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay. All in favour?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Make a motion to move into executive session?
Purpose of discussing personnel.
For discussing personnel, yes.
Good. Have a roll. Do I have a second?
Legal matter and possibly student matter?
No, is that in the description?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, it's just personnel.
Okay.
The one I have just says personnel.
Thank you.
It's your agenda.
Okay. So roll call vote, please.
Second on that.
Second.
Stahl.
Yes.
Keller? Stahl?
Yes.
Mr. Addison?
Yes.
Quinn?
Yes.
Dr. Stricker?
Yes.
Mr. Cotton?
Yes.
All right, that passes unanimously. We are in recess. We are in executive session. Okay, we're going to wait just 2 or 3 more minutes. Give anybody who wants to come a chance before we start the regular session. Michael, hello. Cast of characters out there. Just the 2 of you.
Right.
Okay, we have reconvened back into open session, so we will start at this point with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And at this time we have our first opportunity for public comment. The school board welcomes questions, ideas and comments from persons in attendance. Members of the audience may comment during the public comment portion of the meeting when recognised by the board president. We ask that comments be limited to 3 minutes in order to complete the agenda within a reasonable time. We also ask that comments begin by providing your name, address and the school district within which you reside. Do we have anybody who'd like to offer public comment? Mr. Shipley.
Good
Good evening, Ford. My name is Michael Shipley. I live at 807 Havenwood Court, Warson Woods, Missouri, 63122, and we reside in the Webster Grove School District. And the far reaches of Webster Grove School District. We're still in it. I'm here tonight to talk about Arnold Stricker and say hello to the board. I just kind of wanted to start by saying I was inspired to come in here a couple months ago, but I didn't make it, about the healthy financial report of the district and how well the district's doing. It's very impressive, and I just wanted to pass my congratulations on to the board and the administration and how well everything's been going lately. So, and then getting to Arnold Stricker, I know that you're moving on from the board, from what I've heard, and I know one thing I want to say about Arnold. I was thinking on this on the way over here, is that he cares about the kids. Every time he thinks about an issue or reads about a subject, he's always, when I was on the board, he's always very well prepared, and you could tell that he's always putting the best foot forward, and he also has a good sense of humor, which always makes board dynamics work well. And I know your heart will always be with Webster Grove School District, and I'm sure they'll welcome you back whenever you want to come back, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Mr. Law.
Good evening. Steve Lohr, 7410 Devonshire, Shrewsbury. I, like Michael, who served on the board at the same time as Arnold, I'm here to actually say thank you, express my appreciation for your service. I know it probably was odd for you to have to come back and say, you know, I'm moving out of the district. It's just one of those odd things that happens, and it hasn't happened for a long time for the board here. But I know it's for a very good thing for you and Amy to go on to the next chapter of your life. I'm sure that when Arnold makes his comments later, which unfortunately I can't stay around for, but I'm sure one of the things that he will mention is the fact that it's a whole nother view being a board member than it is to be an administrator and a teacher and all those things. And one thing I knew about Arnold when he came on the board is he was always looking to learn more, as we all were when we came upon the board. No matter how much or how many times you've spent in schools or around schools, you think you've seen all parts of the game, but there's always plays that come around that you probably haven't seen before. So, and I'm sure during your, I guess, 4+ years now on the board, that you've seen quite a few new things to happen and seen things from a different perspective. So, Amy, I'm hoping you get more of Arnold's time now, considering the commitment it does take to be a board member. And I just want to say thank you. It was a joy serving with you, and I'm honored to say that I did. And thank you again for your service, as to all board members as well. So.
Mr. Buck.
Buck, 124 South Elm, in the Webster School District. That seems so strange. Let me remind everybody that there are 2 public comments. I'm going to say my remarks for Arnold to the second one. So you're still on the clock, buddy, so just pay attention, okay? I want to share an analogy and maybe a belief for your consideration. Here's an analogy. We live in a great country, a lot of opportunities, a lot of problems, from climate change to racism, obesity, gun violence, et cetera, et cetera. We are also a country of 75 million kids, 18 and under. And I am of the personal and strong belief that the biggest single problem in the richest and most powerful country on earth is that 1 in 5 children go hungry every day and go to bed hungry every night. If you do the math, that's 15 million children in our country that go hungry every single day. I think it's the biggest problem we face. Both Gandhi and Nelson Mandela said that the keenest measurement of a society is how it treats its children. Our American society, in my mind, is not measuring up very well. However, do you think that with all the resources we have, if this country truly made a commitment to solve this problem and end it, do you think it could? I do. If it had the guts, if it had the focus, if it had the leadership, but this problem has been going on for years. There's no doubt in my mind that if we focused on it as a country, we could solve it. Thus the analogy to this district. This is a great district, great country. It's got a lot of opportunities. I think it had its share of problems. And the biggest problem to me, particularly after serving as a tutor at the Webster Rock Hill Ministries for 2 years, is the achievement gap. I know that's not the political correct term, call it what you want. Opportunity gap, performance gap, success gap, whatever. There's a gap between white and black students' achievement in this district. Barbara and I have lived here for 20 years, and it's been going on at least that long. In fact, the first committee was called the Achievement Gap Committee in 2001. Then they changed the name to Equity in Education. But it doesn't escape the fact that there's an achievement gap, and it's there and it's real. In the achievement gap, what the experts say is that when they graduate from high school, that leads to a college gap, and an income gap, and an employment gap, and then a poverty gap, and then a crime gap, and then a lot of these kids go to prison, and that's the pipeline to prison. The point is, do you think, like America with hunger, do you think this district, if it really committed itself to solving this problem once and for all, could do it? Well, I do. It may take some different thinking, may take some different priorities, but I'm a party of one. I think it's the biggest problem this district faces. It's been going on 20 years. It's time we solve it. We can do it.
Thank you. So, particularly with regard to the comments from Mr. Law and Mr. Shipley, the board doesn't comment on the public comment section. On the other hand, if Mr. Shipley wanted to make a public comment whilst Steve and Michael were still here, he's certainly free to do that.
It's always great to see you guys and to talk to you, and I'm thankful for the opportunity to serve with you. Learned a tremendous amount from each of you, and I'll probably comment on this a little bit later, but a board is not one person; it's all seven, and when all seven are in sync with each other, you can get tremendous things done. That's not always the case. And there's times when we've agreed, but when we can agree to disagree and hear each other out and understand, that's productivity. It may not look like it in the final result, but it's productivity. So everybody's voice is important, especially when they want to influence their community and serve their community. It's not an easy job to run for any position and get elected. Then you have to serve. The easy part may be getting elected. That's hard enough. But there are other responsibilities, and I know that we all take them very seriously. So, as I know that you guys both did. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Any other public comments? Okay, and as Mr. Buck has noted, we have a second opportunity for public comment towards the end of the meeting. Celebrations from the board. Dr. Stretcher, we'll let you go first.
I had an opportunity to go to the Ambrose Center open house, and they had a packed gym, and everybody was engaged in going to the classrooms and talking to the teachers, and it was very successful.
Went to a PTO meeting at Edgar Road. They're really looking forward to their November guest, Dr. Simpson. And so no, it was a good meeting. Just a pretty packed room of involved parents.
Good.
I actually got to enjoy the last couple of football games when the first one Webster got the fire relit under them, and the home games. Let me say the home games. So it's been nice to see the team. You can see it on their face. You can just feel the energy coming off the field again. So I was happy to see that.
Joe?
I went to the Bristol PTO meeting where Dr. Simpson presented, which went really well. It was well received. High school conferences were last week, and they were, I have to say, best ever. Like in and out, smooth. So the appointment seems to be working. I didn't use that. I walked up, but it was quick, which was good. And the swim team is doing well. We have an amazing diver who I think is going to do really, really well in state. So it'll be exciting to follow him as a freshman for the next 4 years.
Sweet cat.
I also walked up to and out of the high school conferences pretty easily. Avery Fall Festival was last weekend. I was working late and couldn't go, but my kiddo was excited to go back to school to spend the evening there, and sad to come home, so that was good. And I'm excited to volunteer for the Ivory Crockett Run. My husband and I are doing that again this weekend for the WGSD Foundation, and my kiddo's going to run the 1 mile fun run, and they're going to get flu shots. I don't know if they know this part yet.
Not sure
But I'm
that's
excited that
necessary.
the wellness committee.
That's a celebration, is it? My wife is also going to run in the Ivory Crockett.
Awesome.
And I'm not entirely sure if I'll be there to cheer her on or not, so I think I'm going to have to referee that morning. Anyway, all right, administrators.
Did you have it?
No, I pass, thank you.
Grace, I want to give you an opportunity. You want to share first? Any celebrations?
Yeah, sure. So the Spanish Club at Webster Groves High School, we've grown a lot this year. We have like 100 members right now. Not everybody can make it to the meetings, but we're really growing in size. And we recently did a nonprofit organization project, and we raised over $760 for families in Nicaragua. So that's really exciting to see.
It's cool. Thank you. Kathy, do you have any?
The Statesman Scholar Bowl team took first place in its first tournament of the season. It was at Eureka, and we also had one of the students, Ethan Weil, took first place in the top score in the individual competition. The other members of the team are Colin Miner, Ezra Park, and Noah Black.
Thank you. And just adding a few, you had some of mine. Simpson family will be at, I didn't think about our kids for the flu shots, but the flu shots, it's the time to do it. Our flu shots are free, so anybody in the public can come and get a free flu shot that day.
That's something for a cough.
Additionally, in a few weeks, we have some of our Thrive teams. I think your son's team is one of them, as well as a group of students from Hudson Elementary that are going to go down and pitch their businesses at the Venture Cafe, which is down at the CIC. And they're going to get an opportunity to generate some income for their businesses if they are selected. So again, pretty neat that the kids in Thrive, as well as this young group from Hudson, is going to get this opportunity. I think that's November 6th is the day. If you haven't seen any on social media, our band, they kind of routinely go down to the City Museum, and they are shown on social media performing Stairway to Heaven across the kind of the big catwalk or whatever it is. It's really pretty cool. So both the people at the museum, the people in the streets had the... Chris, did you hear him?
Oh, yeah.
Had the opportunity to hear them.
So it's always fantastic. My kids had a great time every year they did that as well.
It's so cool.
So fun. I've been out of town every time. The last 3 times it's been going on. Something I really enjoy.
That's great. And I too had a good experience. I was, as a dad, going to Hickson conferences. So I don't know what it was like. Well, I guess I kind of know what it was like before, but experiencing it, it was a good experience to sit down with all the different teachers, kind of through a rotation. So that's it.
Anything else from administrators? Okay, initial review of board policies. So there is a board policies being presented for the first time. Policy BCC, appointed board officials. Anybody on the policy subcommittee, is there anything that they would care to share with us about this? Okay.
It's a pretty simple policy, just kind of outlining. Did you want to say?
I was just saying, I think it's pretty clear, and there was nothing really.
Well, I didn't think there was. I just wanted to give you an opportunity if there's anything you wanted to bring back to the board about that. Okay, board calendar.
Nothing special to highlight. We did put in front of you, I believe. I think Dr. Stricker, you got one too. But just the St. Louis, the group of board members that organize the board PD sessions. And so I don't think it's listed on your official calendar, but if that's something that you will want to attend at Kirkwood, you're more than welcome to attend. I know a number of you have in the past. So that's it.
All right. Board equity training.
So wanted to, we've kind of talked about this a few times, wanting to do this equity training, inviting the leaders in the 5 municipalities that make us up to join us in this training. After receiving feedback from all of you, it was pretty consistent that the board, and the costs actually being the most cost effective, cheapest, too, was to go with the NCCJ to do this particular training. And some of the feedback I got was that they felt like their proposal or their design of their workshop was more inclusive of all the different people, all the different isms and stuff like that. So unless there's anybody that wants to state anything to the contrary, I did receive feedback from over half the board. We'll go with that particular group. And what I kind of wanted to get from you all today is, do you want to make that a 1 full day session or 2 half-day sessions? And then what I was going to do from that is I was going to send out kind of a doodle poll with just a bunch of dates for you guys to see if you're available. Any preference?
Just sort of go round.
I think there's a written rule that I'm not supposed to take off any days in the next 5 months and 2 weeks, but there's an unwritten rule that I can always ask, and I'm sure this is something that I can do either or.
Okay.
You've started your new job?
Last week?
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Jody, you have a
I have no
preference?
preference.
Okay.
A whole day is going to be hard for me. 2 half days is probably going to be hard for me as well, but I'll do my best.
Okay.
I'm kind of the same boat as Christine. It just kind of depends on whatever you guys decide. I'll work around it.
Okay.
Pass.
Okay.
I'll be easy. I'll make something work.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll check in with Amy on that. I think she was of preferring half days, I think, the last time. So I'll send some different options, maybe some full and half day type options to you. And we'll kind of shoot a little bit out. So I know you had said before, at least Keita, that as long as you had advance, I mean, all of you, professional people, as long as you had advance notice, you can make it work. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if there's, entirely selfishly for me, it's probably, if we started sort of in mid-afternoon and went sort of on and sort of did from that, you just sort of did 3 hours starting at sort of 3 or something like that, I'm probably going to, that's going to be a lot easier for me to fit in personally, and you know, I'm just leaving work a little early, and it's going to be a lot easier to fit then. And frankly, my travel's going to be the bigger issue around that for me.
Is it the same for the rest of you? Would a 3 o'clock start time be favorable to? Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
As long as we have ahead
Okay.
of time.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Well, don't work it around me. We're working
Okay.
around to see what everybody can do.
Sounds good.
I feel like maybe David and Keita might have the most restrictive schedules, am I right?
The 3 o'clock actually for me would work. Really, I'm only in the middle of carpool at that point, and if I can get someone, as long as I can get the girls home, it's somebody, then actually that would work for me.
Okay. Okay.
Might be ideal.
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. The MSBA Fall Conference, a debrief. Really, would just like to, if it was good, everybody made it down there for the conference. I thought there's some sort of good sessions going on. I think this will be the last time that, at least for the moment, that it's going to be at Tantara. They're going to move, I think, next time to Kansas City. I think that not so much because Tantara is now Margaritaville, with all that implies, but more just because the conference has outgrown the facility that is there, and there are just so many sessions. I think they're going to try it in Kansas City, I think, at least next time round. But again, I'll just sort of go around if there's anything that anybody would care to share about a session that they went to that think that the rest of the board would appreciate, that would be good. I'll start off with you, Alex.
Yeah, so I guess for me it seemed like fair and equitable learning treatment of all students was kind of a reoccurring theme, at least something that I was kind of gearing more of my breakouts towards. And one example of a board kind of really looking at its own policies and rethinking punishment and overall student expectations with University City, kind of in our own backyard, and I think they've done some great work. I think they're just really committed to making a change from punitive to proactive, and the restorative policy, and then even from student discipline policy to student expectations. So even, that was one thing, they changed their student discipline handbook to a student expectations guide. And I think even just that wording right there is something that can just completely reframe something into something that everyone can take ownership of. And so I took a list of some different schools that they looked at and have their actual policy. It's not actually a policy. It's they have I can't remember what they're calling it.
It was like a resolution statement.
Yeah. And they work with a lot of different parts of a lot of different organizations within University City, police department, government, so on and so forth. So just something that I think is really interesting, and I'd love for us to kind of, challenge ourselves to continue to look at that stuff, and, moving from punitive to proactive. I just thought that was really cool.
I had the opportunity to co-present a workshop on child sexual abuse, and several of you went to that, and thank you for coming to that. I had a lot of good response from the written and even afterwards talking to people. It's a very, very important topic that really is not discussed a lot. It's just mentioned. You see it on the news. You see when children have been abused sexually very regularly, but that's not even the tip of the iceberg. So the kids that we're really worried about are the students in our community who they don't show up on the news, that these things happen. And it was just an awareness to give people information that they can be proactive in their communities and speak on behalf of children who cannot speak for themselves. So thank to all of you who showed up for that, and would have made some of the other seminars, but medical issues were prioritizing my time at that time.
Sure.
I did attend your session. I guess enjoyed is not the right word, but I did learn a lot. I went to, the last one I went to was offered by Platte County R3, which I believe is outside of Kansas City. And it was a depressing subject. It was called After a Suicide, but I learned a lot, and it made me, I kind of tied the two together, really, because you never know what's going on if a kid is acting out because something's happening to them or has happened to them. This particular county within the last year has experienced 4 deaths, 2 by suicide, and it made me want to, I think I mentioned it to you, Chris, make sure that we are putting some sort of effort or more of an effort into mental health issues for the students. Screenings, I don't know if it's more counselors, more peer groups. I think these kids are, it's tough to be a kid at any point in time, but I think now is really tough with social media and everything else impacting how they think and view themselves and view each other. So that's what I came away with. I was also very impressed by Columbia's Equity in Education presentation. They have a program with the acronym of FACE. Unfortunately, I was trying to look it up, but I can't remember what the letters stand for. But it was an effort to get returning teachers to come back to the district, where it's similar, I guess, kind of similar to some of the programs we have, where their junior, senior year, they get actual teaching experience in the school. When they go through the program, they come out with, I guess, the equivalent of like an associate's degree or something like that. And then they have partnerships with the colleges in the area, Mizzou, Columbia College, Stevens, Missouri Central. And so anyway, they get a free ride if they go through this program. They do have to come back and teach in Columbia for 5 years, but then after that, I thought that was awesome. So that kind of, I was also inspired to say, hey, let's get some more partnerships with some universities. We got one right next door. And I was very impressed by that.
Sure.
So two ones that really impressed me was the Kansas City superintendent, and I think some other people were at that one, where he talked about all the things he's done to just improve that district. And as someone who grew up in Kansas City, it's been a mess forever. It's on the news every other day because there's always something not going well. And he is just really impressive. And the things that he's done, from working with the police department to getting bus passes for all the students to getting everybody a hotspot and a laptop, was really, really impressive. The other one that was good that kind of relates to KETA, that was something I think actually would be easier to bring here, was from Glendale High School, which is in Springfield. And they did a survey of their students that looked at drug and alcohol abuse, anxiety, depression, suicide, and bullying. And they realized that there was a huge issue with all three of those areas. And so the students took it upon themselves to create a conference. They brought in a keynote speaker, and then they had breakout sessions. So every student there went to a breakout session on healthy relationships, healthy mind, and I don't remember what the other one was anyway, and mental wellness. And then they went back and debriefed with a teacher, and you kind of got paired with people you didn't necessarily know, and they had counselors there. The students actually did the presentation, which was really, really impressive. And the detail and the work, they involved the students. The marketing classes did all the marketing work. The food classes, food nutrition, made all the food for the breakfast and the lunch. Every presenter had a student that was took through the school. Anyway, it was really well run and a great program, and they had really, really positive feedback from it. So something to think about.
Do you remember what school? I remember you saying that. Do you remember what school that was in Springfield?
Glendale.
It was Glendale. Thank you. Sorry.
Christine.
I just wanted to give kudos to Arnold and community member Jenny Weil for presenting an engaging conversation about identifying, preventing, and reacting responsibly to child sexual abuse. I understand that our district administration has gone through the training as well, and I forwarded some information on next steps that Jenny passed along. But I could already tell just in that 50-minute session that there was such a rich conversation that wanted to be had. So I imagine within the fuller training that it was just so worthwhile to hear, witness, and then be able to speak on behalf of kids that way. Columbia, Missouri, I also just was so excited to see where they had come from and where they were headed in terms of equity and inclusion, and knowing that they work hand in hand with NCCJ. I'm excited that we're going to get started with that as well. And then I enjoyed hearing about Liberty, Missouri. I think this is the second year in a row I've heard from them, and their ability to push innovation into their strategic plan while working collaboratively with regional partners, including universities that are in their region, and, as well as their city. And I'm also still really jealous of their district leadership book club. If anybody's interested. That's all.
Thank you. And I just wanted, so I apologise that I was not able to get down to the conference in time to hear you speak, but I heard people, other people, it was a conversation that I heard just as I was around and other things, and heard very positive things from other people who'd been at the session. So just wanted to thank you. And I think just wanted to thank you for taking the time to go and do that, and then thank all the board for taking the time to go down to the conference. I think it is important. It's something both in terms of the sessions that we attend, and then also just the opportunity to be in an environment where you're talking about children and what we can do to go and help children. To that end, it was good that we were able to have dinner on the Saturday evening with the members of the superintendent of Kirkwood and members of the Kirkwood school district as well. We at times, yes, we're rivals and whatever, but it's also good just to spend some time with them and to hear what's going well with them, to discuss what's going well, where there are opportunities in their district, and then similarly for us. So I think that in addition to the sessions, just the opportunities to spend time with other people for whom work on within a school district is a focus of their lives is it's a very good use of our time, and I thank everybody on the board for taking the time to and you, John, as well, for coming down, for everybody who comes down to go and do that. Did you have any comments you wanted to add?
I agree with what a lot of people said. Again, I really liked Arnold's session. I thought it was very informative, and I think you guys also, just the time and effort you put in to the presentation itself and doing it in a creative way. I think it's an engaging topic as it is, but I think you made it more engaging just with your approach to it. I think for me, again, a lot of them I really enjoyed, and I did buy the audiobook for The Way Home of Wes Moore.
Oh, I did too.
It was really, really good. That was our keynote speaker. On one of the days, he was phenomenal. A lot of the presentations, I think one of the things for me that I was in the suicide one, I was in some of these different other leadership ones. I think one of the ones that kind of still has me thinking is how, and it was the Kansas City superintendent who really challenged, was it the chief of police, I think it was, or the media? Anyway, he challenged a local agency in a way that just made me wonder how I can do a better job of how to still, you have to maintain relationships with local, but you have a responsibility to advocate for kids and equity and what's right. And so I think, again, coming back to what my job is to support our kids and our organization, then how do I do a better job with public agencies or cities or police forces of, if something is not right and I feel it's not right, of taking a stand on that. Because it just inspired me how he was saying that.
He was very inspired.
Yeah. So.
Because he's looking at the community, not just that.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to make their whole world better, not just their education.
Right. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, everybody. Okay, so as has been alluded to already, a member of the board, Dr. Stricker, has made everybody aware that at the end of this board meeting, he will resign from the board because he's going to be moving out of the district. So it falls to the board. So there is board policy, and everybody should have a copy in front of them of board policy BBE1.
It's underneath this sheet that says process to fill vacancy.
And so that goes and lays out what board policy actually states with regard to the vacancy. Then so the first piece of paper talks about the process, and so basically what's going to happen, there will be an application, or rather we will announce, we're announcing that there's going to be a vacancy tonight at the board meeting. We're going to post a notification of the vacancy in the Webster Kirkwood Times, and then also at the various school districts the schools in the district, at the public libraries and at the city halls, and then also on social media, and there's going to be an email going out. In terms of what you actually need to be able to do to apply to fill the rest of this up until the coming election, the term of Dr. Stricker's term, there's a page there that outlines all the various things there. To be clear, the board, what will happen is the board will accept applications, will then review those, and will then come to a decision as to who will fill the vacancy. If the board decides, and this is a subject for us to sort of decide, but if the board decides that we're going to have sort of formal interviews of applicants, then we will do that in open session. The board will decide what the appropriate way is, and the board will decide on somebody. The person who fulfills the term will serve through April 13th, 2020, at which point, along with the regular election, there will be an election for that single vacancy as well. So what will come up in April is there will be 3 full terms available, and there will be one reduced term that's available. And people who are going to, at that election, you will apply, you'll sort of put your nomination in for, if you want to run for the full term, you'll put your nomination in for that. If you want to run for the reduced term, you'll put your nomination in for that. I'm not sure whether somebody's allowed to actually go and put their name in for both or not.
Or not.
It's clear that you're not allowed to.
I think we checked in. Didn't we check into that, Chair?
Yeah. Okay, so you're okay. So somebody will have to apply for just one, but not both. So that's sort of where things are at. And so I just at this point, just a discussion in terms of how do we want to handle that, and their thoughts in terms of how we want to handle this. I noticed that in the notification that you've put in terms of the board vacancy, you've suggested the deadline is November 10th. Is that, I thought at one point we were saying that actually we would have it, we'd have the deadline being the day before the next board meeting, so that would be in 2 weeks rather than going out to...
And that was me, and we can definitely do that.
I think if we, so again, I'd ask the board, what does the board think? We could certainly make that, so it would be October 27th otherwise, I think, wouldn't it? Isn't the next board being on the 28th? Yeah, so October 27th would be the other alternative, I think.
So again, kind of like David said, is that, so we'll get all the applicants on Sunday night, and we'll bring it to the board meeting on Monday, and at that point we'll be able to determine. We don't have to go through an interview process if there's like an agreement as to the person that you want to have do this position, or we can go through an interview process with however many applicants. And we didn't create a next step because we don't know if we're going to have 1 or 20. So can we do 20 at the next board meeting? Do we want to have a special day when we do 20? So we'll kind of determine those next steps once we see what that number is and who the candidates are. And there's no particular, and this is the process that's outlined is kind of what we just took from board policy. The policy does allow the board to adjust in any kind of way that they want. There's no deadline for when the position has to be filled. Board policy does say that we should seek to try and have it filled within 60 days of notice of the vacancy.
And just so I know, I'd had somebody had asked me, so Dr. Stricker will be off the board by the time it has no role then in filling the vacancy in any way. Not in any way a reflection on Dr. Stricker. It's just that's the way it is. That Dr. Stricker will have resigned from the board by that point, so it will be left to the remaining 6 board members to move forward. I guess I'll throw this. I mean, I've got some thoughts, but perhaps before I start talking, let me throw it open to everybody. Comments from the board in terms of sort of the process, in terms of anything else.
Well, I was curious. On then Sunday, the 27th, you're saying At what time would they be due? Like midnight or?
We can put a time on there, just say by that day.
And then the board
Determine.
would have access to those applications then on Monday?
So I was sort of thinking through the timing.
Yeah.
It strikes me, I think it would be very difficult. If we get one applicant and it's somebody who's qualified and whatever, it's probably fairly simple. If we get more than one, I think it's going to be very difficult to go and get those the morning and then go and sort of say to people, by the way, can you, if we decide we want to go with interviews and things like that, can you come in there? So I think, I would imagine we need, once we've seen them, we're going to need some time to sort of go and say, okay, this is what's going on. My gut feel is what we do is we have a special board meeting to go and review and to have people there available for interview or whatever it is, how we decide to go. I'm sorry, I said I wasn't going to say anything. What do I do? I'm going to start launching it.
No, I was going to say, it's whatever you decide. We talked about that at the planning meeting. We talked about the Friday before, but then it moved to the Sunday. So I'm fine with whatever you want. Again, we don't know. They have to submit a cover letter expressing interest as well as a resume, just as an FYI. So those are the two things that you'll receive.
They have to fill out the
No.
financial forms too that we haven't
No.
given December? No. Not at any
They
point?
will
Got
to
it.
be a
Once
board
good.
member.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's why we kind of put on the job description, like, you're satisfying all these.
Does it say when they need to be, when do they need to be appointed by? Is there
There's
a
really
deadline
not
for
an
that?
official time.
Okay, so I guess if we don't get any candidates that,
You don't have to take them.
Okay.
So I know that there's at least one candidate who will apply. Somebody had asked me about it, so I know that there will be at least one person, a former board member, who will put their name up for consideration. So.
State law, Amy said that state law doesn't require us to fill it.
And to be honest, this was another topic of conversation. This is another topic of conversation for the board, which is that it's a relatively short time between now and the election. Do we want to fill the vacancy? As we talked about it, we thought that it was just good from a from a policy standpoint. It was a good idea to do that, but that was just us in the planning. Again, I open it to the rest of the board. Do they think that we should? I mean, first and foremost, do the rest of the board? Do you feel that we should be trying to fill this vacancy now, before for the remainder of this point in the term until April? I mean, what are people's thoughts about that?
I think so, given that the border, we're going to be redrawing boundary lines, and I'd not say this person is necessarily going to run and then come in again, but if that were the case, that person would have the information from earlier up until then, as opposed to just coming in April.
Okay.
So that's my thought.
It seems like there's no reason not to fill it.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
If someone's willing, knowing that that's how long it is, and they're willing to do it, then.
This was our feeling when we met, but at the same time, it's a board decision. It's not about, as Dr. Strick said before, it's not a board of one, it's a board of 7. 6 for a little while. I'm sorry, we'll miss you. But still, okay. So in terms of that, so we, as a board, the general feeling is yes, we should be filling the vacancy. Okay. Second question then that I'd ask is what's a reasonable length of time to allow people to go and think about this and to then go and apply? I mean, should we be looking? Is October 27th? Is 2 weeks enough time? Should we be giving people sort of a month to go and think about this? What's the general thought there? And Dr. Strick, we welcome your opinion here as well. I mean,
Guide us.
You won't get to choose the person, that's all. But I mean, does anybody have any thoughts in terms of what's a reasonable length of time to allow somebody to sort of to think about this?
2 weeks seem reasonable, especially considering how short you're looking at the whole term being.
Yeah.
Seems like you want to move faster, in my opinion.
And it has to be filled within a month, is that what I heard?
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't.
60 days, endeavor to complete it within 60 days, I think was what the policy says.
But it doesn't have
But
to
it-
be.
Doesn't have
So
to
we
be
could
long.
go out a
No.
month and then we
But
could
if
go
we're-
and do it within 2 weeks thereafter, and we'd still be within 60 days.
Right.
But so, okay, so Joe, you think, why are we hanging around, bait? I mean, you know, it's,
Or if we're gonna have to, we're gonna advertise for it, is that,
yes.
so we have to add in enough times for that, I guess, but.
So the advert will go into the Webster Kirkwood Times this week,
Oh, this
so
week.
it will, so people will
Okay.
see it. So basically, therefore, if you get your Webster Kirkwood Times on Wednesday night, Thursday, you'll have about a week to think about it at that point, to come back and ask questions. If we decide with the 27th, if we decide with the 10th, you've got 3 weeks to think about it.
I agree with Joe, 2 weeks.
Okay, so the 27th. Anybody else?
Now, somebody had said you want them before the Sunday. Do you want to move it to the Friday?
I kind of like that idea. I like having a little bit more time to. I mean,
Well, so
like
is
I said,
the idea that,
there's-
so if we get it on the Friday, would the idea then be that you're going to go and send it out to, that you'll send it out to the board at the end of the day on Friday, and then, in which case, then, I'm still hard pressed to see how we go and get this. I think we have to get together as a board and decide how we're going to act on it. I don't think that we can, I think that we need to do that in open session.
At the next meeting?
At the meeting on the
Right.
27th, I think we need to go and do it, decide. With then, if we decide we want to do interviews, I think then we can, we could schedule those afterwards. I mean, we may look at it and say there's a person who we believe as a board is the most clearly, and again, we'll do this all in open session, we believe is most clearly suited to go and do this and stands out, for, above, all the rest. I mean, it's not an election. It's the board's decision to make, and we'll do it in whatever manner we see fit.
So I can set it for October, I guess it would be 25th at
So-
5 p.m. and then send you the resumes and covers letters right away. And then at the next meeting, we review all the applicants. They'll be public,
Yeah, I'd like more than a couple hours.
Okay.
Yes, I think.
Provided we get, more
Okay.
than.
Does that so that works for everybody as a okay? All right. Is there any, in terms of advertising it, so we're going to use, obviously, Webster Kirkwood Times, we say over and over, I don't know if there's anybody actually from the Webster Kirkwood Times here, so I'm about to say nice things about them. But, we note that, the Webster Kirkwood Times is a vehicle by which a lot of our community does hear what's going on. And I do think it's very important that people sort of understand what it is to go and how they can apply. Is there anything that's missing, do we believe, in terms of the where we're talking about notifying? Is there anything else anybody would like to see?
I don't know if you would want to notify I know if you're notifying the city halls, but maybe notifying the governmental institutions, the mayors and council members. Just a thought.
Okay.
I would think also, so if we have had, beyond just, in terms of the email, beyond just the district families, we have other people as well who show a regular interest in what the district does. I think it would be, and who will communicate within our district. I think it would be good if we can also make sure that they are included in the email that goes out as well.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay.
Okay. I think we're good.
So a notification will go out and we'll leave it to you and to Kathy to actually put the notice together.
Yep.
And that will go out. Good. Excellent. Okay. Anybody got any more questions about that? Sorry, no, I'm sorry. Dambo. If not, we will move on to reports from superintendents and staff. In just a second. No, I'm kidding. Let's just stand up and sit down. Dr. Denbo.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hopefully this kicks on. There. This one's on. For some reason that one's not. Okay. Well, before I asked the board to approve the professional development plan for the school district this year. I just wanted to take a moment and highlight a couple of things that we are doing as a district. The first 5 items that you see up there really look at our district leadership and the professional development that we are providing and working with our school principals in the areas of literacy primarily and school improvement. I just wanted to talk a moment about that. So the first bullet talks about the district continuous improvement plan or process. This is a reframing of the Missouri professional learning communities process that we started as a district last year. It's been rebranded as district continuous improvement. And what this allows us to do is, in addition to the PLC process, we are providing facilitators that come into our buildings, work with our administrators on specific things that are unique to that building in particular, rather than working through a set protocol of strategies. So we have monthly meetings with our district DCI facilitators that work with all of our building administrators. So that's something that's new this year. We're meeting on a regular basis. We also we just completed an activity last week during our early dismissal day for our K through 6 staff, and we will be doing it with our 7 through 12 staff on November 1st, where we are meeting as a district and doing cross-grade vertical alignment and discussing our curriculum. So for probably at least the first time in recent memory, we had all of our grade level teachers in one area and talking about the ELA standards, and that's what we did on Wednesday. And we were identifying the important standards that students should be coming into a grade level with and leaving a grade level with, and it allowed that vertical articulation conversations K through 6. And Hickson and the high school will be conducting those same types of conversations on November 1st, which is an important component. The building, I alluded to this before, the building DCI facilitators are working regularly with our building level administrators. One thing that we also are doing every other week, we're meeting as a K-8 group with actually one of our high school administrators participating as well in a book study, Leading Well, about how to improve ELA performance within our schools and what to look for as they're going in to observe classrooms and providing support to our instructional staff. So that has already lent itself to a lot of really good and rich conversations to help improve our instructional practice for our students. We are sending one of our administrators to a very intensive week-long Leadership Institute at Teachers College in New York City, where they will be working with leaders in the field around ELA. They're also going to be able to collaborate with other administrators across the country and as well go into some of the schools within New York City to see the literacy programs that we're trying to put in place, which have been in place there for years, and see it in action and see classrooms where it's really working and doing what we want to see done. In addition, we are sending some of our teachers to the Coaching Institute so that they can work with their colleagues, not in an evaluative measure, but also as a coach when they're trying to implement the reading workshop, writing workshop method that we're trying to employ throughout the district. Some of the other things I want to highlight, we brought the Teachers College Institute over the summer to work with our teachers in grades K2 and 6-8 around reading. Julie Parr has already worked and will continue to work with our second grade students as we roll out the units of phonics for this school year. Susan Bergman has done a wonderful job as our math coordinator bringing in Cara M., who is really promotes that math workshop model as well as math engagement and critical thinking for students. And so she has, last year we brought her in to work with our K2 teachers, this year with our 3-5 teachers, and actually in partnership with Parkway School District, we were able to bring her in to work with our 6-8 teachers. Susan was also part of the planning committee with the Fox School District to bring the K-12 Added Up Conference, which is an institute in the summer, again centered around math strategies and engagement to improve math achievement. And Julie Parr is involved with the Fox Literacy Institute, which focuses on secondary literacy instruction. This is the third year we've been able to be accepted. We were accepted into the STEM TQ. TQ is teacher quality, so this is a cohort of intensive work through Washington University. This is the third year we had a cohort accepted of teachers to go through this institute. It's very intense. It's 2 full weeks in the summer, and then monthly meetings throughout the school year. So many hours centered around STEM, sciences, and equity work, and how they can bring that back into their classroom. And we continue to bring the social justice work to our second-year teachers and other teachers who have not participated in that training in the past, as well as several of our school principals have added on a layer of social justice equity work around dismantling systemic racism with Crossroads Institute. So those are just a few things I wanted to highlight. We have a lot of things going on, lots of good work, both at the leadership level and at the teacher level. So if there are no questions, I just ask that the professional development plan be approved by the board.
So, any questions? I have one sort of slightly tangential question. So I read various times about on the STEM side about sort of there are potentially sort of grants available and things like that. I know that in the past we tried to go and get those. We weren't terribly successful in terms of going and getting those sorts of grants and things. Is that money that you think Webster has a chance? Are any of those programs or things that Webster has a chance to go and get access to that might offer other opportunities?
Are you talking about STEM instruction for students or professional development for teachers?
And more actually about instruction for students, really.
We were actually contacted by someone from Washington University who gave a whole list of opportunities that they provide around STEM just a week or so ago. I worked with Betsy Moppert, who's the K-8 science coordinator. She also forwarded it on to Joe Beckman, who's the high school science department chair. Betsy went through and vetted all of those programs, and some of them, because of financial means, were not eligible for, but she did highlight several that we would be eligible to move forward. So those are certainly things that we're going to start looking at. In addition to that, we have part of the gifted program reevaluation. We're moving from wings into an enrichment program for all of our students. And just today, we sat and met with 2 different programs centered around STEM activities, trying to find what would be the best fit for our students within the context of what we can provide at this time.
Sure.
So those are some of the things that we're in the process of working on.
Sure, and just as I say, just your comments about the teachers going and doing the enrichment and professional development there brought that to my mind. So thank you. Thank you very much.
How's the buy-in from staff as it relates to a lot of this here? I can see there might be a little pushback.
There, for some of the units of study work, we're at a point where we had so many people doing it, and a component that hadn't started using it. It was beyond a tipping point. So really, for the benefit of students, we were at a point where everybody needs to start doing this. And so we realized those teachers who might be late adopters of going through this method will need to have additional support. And so we're looking at ways through different areas of coaching or professional development, both from the Teachers College and from Julie Parr, to help support those, in addition to all of the work with the principals, so they can be the instructional leaders and support their staff as well.
Is this something, some of these opportunities and activities, things that are going to be long-term, ongoing? And when I mean long-term, like 4 or 5 years out, they're not just like this year or next year and then there's something else?
Yeah, no, this will be a long-term process to improve our instruction. When you're looking at reading, writing workshop, there really that is as individualized instruction as you can get if done well. And so that's a learning curve for everybody. And so looking at how we can provide the supports and put those supports in place so that our teachers feel supported and get the continual feedback and professional development that they need.
Okay.
Just wanted to highlight, Chris has done such a great job with this. Obviously a clear focus on literacy, but I just wanted to special highlight the whole Leading Well book study with the administrators. Is they're in such a crucial role and such a space to be able to support teachers and their work with kids and to help development. They're the experts, they're the practitioners day in, day out, but the more that they have the capacity to know what it should look like. And she has principals who are actually facilitating different literacy practices in front of one another and observing one another and giving critical feedback to one another, which I think is something a lot of them, because if they've been out of a classroom for a long time, things have changed, the game's changed. So I just want to highlight, just celebrate just the work that she's doing, the work that they're doing, and buying into it, believing in it, and I think it'll have a good result for our kids and our teachers. So.
Any other questions or comments? I don't see...
It wasn't listed on there, but it does need to be approved. That's okay.
Okay.
It does need approval.
Is there a motion then that you have for us to offer?
Motion to approve the 2019-2020 professional development
Make
plan.
a motion we approve the 2019-2020 professional development plan as presented this evening.
Second.
All in favour?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Pam.
Good evening. So in your packet, you've seen the bond resolution for the sale of the remaining $9.5 million of Proposition E bonds. The bond resolution will actually authorize the district to issue the bonds. It authorizes the board officers to sign the documents for the bonds. And it also says that we'll be doing the additions to the Hickson Middle School and the other safety and security items that were approved by the voters. So in the language it says we have the authority then to construct, renovate school facilities. So the parameters for the bond sale are saying that we can sell the bonds at a premium between 106 and 110% of the principal amount. The coupon interest rate on each maturity of the bond shall not be more than 4%, and the bonds will mature by March 1st of 2039. So Piper Jaffray, the district's financial advisor, will receive proposals on the bonds on October 23rd. They are due by 10:30 a.m. that day. Todd Goffey with Piper Jaffray, and who is Piper Jaffray is the district's municipal or financial advisor. Then also Allie Rafferty with Thompson Coburn are here this evening. Thompson Coburn is the district's bond counsel. So they are here to answer any questions that you may have specifically relating to this bond sale.
Questions? You know I'm going to have some. So just in terms of, can you just talk for just a second in terms of with current moves in interest rates, what that's done and how that has impacted the funds that the board can that can be raised, and what that's going to do in terms of the financing costs of that?
Yes, and that's one of the reasons why the timing.
Can you come to? Sorry, if you can come to the microphone. This is being recorded, so thank you very much.
Good evening, Todd Goffey with Piper Jaffray. One of the reasons why we're here tonight is interest rates have continued to move lower during the year. Initially, the plan was to do the $12.5 million, which we did back late spring, and we were going to come back in 2020 and do the balance. But as rates have come down lower and lower, we felt like it was better to take advantage of the market at this point, go ahead and move forward with the remaining $9.5 million, and then not have that interest rate risk that rates would potentially be higher in the future. It also kind of locks in the plan of finance that you had promised to the voters, and so certainly that's good to do that as well.
Thank you. And just sort of follow up. So in terms of the maturities of the current debt that we have outstanding as well, if interest rates continue to decline, is there anything further that we will be able to do, or are we largely sort of locked in with where we are once this goes in place?
You do have additional bonds that are outstanding where the call dates will be coming up soon, and so we'll be monitoring that and looking for any opportunities to refinance into a lower interest rate. So that's certainly possible, but that's probably a couple years down the road.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Anybody else got any questions? If not, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate your work on this, and appreciate you trying to ensure that we can get as much for the voters' money as possible. So thank you.
Thank you.
And this does require a motion that's actually in board docs. You can see it to approve the bond sale resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the bond sale resolution for $9.5 million in general obligation bonds.
Second.
All in favour? Aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Proposition E, update.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So just a brief update on Proposition E. Again, similar to last time, wanted to give you guys regular updates on the work going on, as well as what's the impending redistricting process. We have, as Joe had shared earlier, and Alex, we are underway with presentations to both staff and parents across the parent organizations across the district. So I'll meet with all the different folks to kind of outline just kind of the Proposition E work moving forward, giving them an update, and sharing with them kind of a draft expectation for what to expect as far as redistricting. Moving from last Monday, I'm able to give a little bit more specific content because we met with Cooperative Strategy, Scott Leopold, who's a project manager for our group, to discuss that particular process. The process, essentially, the document that I just passed out to you is, and I'm just kind of labeling it draft elementary, unless there was anything you thought, oh my gosh, we got to include this in the process. But this is kind of our guidelines that we're going to use, our process we're going to use. First of all, tonight, what I'm going to ask for you guys at the end here is for you to talk about just some priorities or guidelines that we should use for decision making as we look to develop these new boundary lines. We are going to have an advisory committee. Our approach was to have an advisory committee that meets to talk about the boundary line process, look at data, look at information, help develop lines, help facilitate open house groups. They're going to be a group of community members that look for, review all the feedback from the public. Will be transparent again. So every person in the public will get an opportunity to see every single line that's out there, any comment that's made. But this is a group that will come back and actually look at it and synthesize it. And what's the public telling us about these particular lines? So you'll see a number of meetings right there, and they're going to be tentatively at 6 to 8 p.m. There's a potential Saturday if the group wants to do a Saturday in lieu of a couple meetings. 12th, December 19th to 11th, Cooperative Strategies will again be in town for 3 days to do their focus group meetings, where we'll get different constituency groups an opportunity to come in and share their thoughts regarding the lines and the process, the lines really. And then following those focus group meetings, the board will get its first look at options for boundary lines at our January 11th Saturday workshop. Similar to what we did last year, that's an opportunity for you just to ask any kind of questions you want about process, anything you want clarified regarding the data and the lines and all that kind of stuff. The purpose of just giving you the opportunity to ask clarifying is because then we're going to go out to the entire public in survey form, in open house form, and we want to hear what does the public say about the lines. And we don't want them skewed or think you're leaning any way prior to getting their input, okay? So we'll go through that layer of feedback. We'll close the survey. The committee will come back together, review all of that, and then at this point, the final board presentation approval of the lines would be February 24th. Scott did not think that was too aggressive to do. He thought this process could get there. From an advisory standpoint, I had kind of spoken with Amy. We didn't want to, David was out of town for a little bit, tending to important matters. And so I talked to Amy kind of about that advisory group, and Keita has agreed to be a board rep on the advisory group, and thinking that as somebody who has 3 kids in the system, has a history that none of us have as far as of the communities, of the school system, certainly having children that weren't Givens, that she would be a good board representation. First I asked Amy, do you think we should have a board rep? She thought we should. And then Keita. The other component is the advisory is going to be comprised of, and Amy was kind of indifferent, but I thought we're going to have all of our building level principals pick one parent, guardian, family member to serve on the advisory. And then the idea is currently, unless you strongly disagree, is to have you all pick somebody to be a part of the advisory. And so you would be responsible for, I'd give you this in electronic form, contacting whoever it is. On this particular sheet, it kind of lists those criteria for what we're hoping for. Can they attend all committee meetings? And like I've told the principals, like if somebody can't make 1 or 2, like that's okay. But can you be present for the meetings? Can you keep an objective viewpoint considering the big picture? Are you going to be listen and share and not just a talker throughout the process, although we want to hear what you have to say? You're going to be responsible for looking at different data. They're going to be creating elementary boundaries, assist in facilitating community discussions, again, reviewing and interpreting feedback, and then make recommendations to the board. So this person doesn't have to be an existing parent. This person doesn't have to fit within, a particular box. But do you think who would you recommend to be a good person? And now, similar to principals, we would ask you to, and I'll give you an electronic form to send this out to them and say, hey, would you be interested in this? You'll see that the turnaround time is pretty quick with this. It's October 22nd is our first meeting. And then the meetings are kind of again throughout until February.
So just so I'm clear, so Keita is going to represent the board, or the recommendation is Keita represents the board on the advisory committee?
Correct.
The board then goes and recommends one other person?
Each of you.
Oh, each of us represents. Each of us recommends one other person.
You.
Okay, all right. That was okay.
Each
and
of you.
Then okay.
Every school is going to be represented because the principals are picking people in their school. Even Steger will have a representative. Okay, Hickson will have a representative. High school will have a representative. All of our schools, Walter Ambrose will have a representative.
I'm with you now. Okay, all right, good.
So then for you all to pick, and this was kind of, again, Scott's suggestion.
Okay.
So you're looking for when those people are chosen by the board to be representative of the attendance areas of the district, or what if the board chooses individual people that kind of reside in 1 or 2 attendance areas.
We could do that. We haven't gotten into that, you know.
Like, I think it would be better if there was more of a distribution than it was like, okay, well, it's school A, you know, all the people they're chosen from school A, so school A has real skin in the game on this one.
Yeah.
And it might skew some results.
Yeah. Well, and the goal is, you know, again, to pick the people that have this objective, big picture, not coming with my own agenda kind of thing, and feeling like the board members and the administrators could probably find those people. But if you all want to decide, you know, let's all take a separate attendance area, is that what you're saying, Dr. Stricker?
Yeah, or just make sure that every other all attendance areas are represented.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, like wants somebody from Hudson, so Hudson has more representation on that committee. I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah.
It could be Avery, it could be Bristol, it
Yeah.
could be Clark, it could be Edgar Road.
Yeah.
It could be Steger.
Yeah.
It could be Gibbons.
Yeah.
It might be good to try to get a couple people that, like you said, don't necessarily have skin in the game, that maybe aren't parents. Or something.
Okay.
Then they would,
Yeah. Well, what I could do is are you guys open to finding somebody or asking somebody that you know to serve in that? What I can do is kind of take your suggestion, and I can look at the people who's the high school and just kind of look to see, like, again, where do their kids go? Kind of like you're saying. Just to make sure we have that representation, and then reach out to you guys tomorrow to let you know we need people from particular areas. But we'll probably want to, I don't know if we want to assign, you know, because if we're short on Bristol, and I tell you we're short on Bristol, then 3 of you go to ask for all these people from Bristol, then we'll get, you know what I'm saying? So.
Well, to Keita's point, do you want people that don't have kids in the district, or that don't currently have kids in the district?
I think that should be both. I mean,
I think it would be good to have at least, you don't, so my only concern as I hear this is that you've got each of the buildings put somebody up. Each of the board members put something up. We've got a board, I mean, we're up to about sort of 17, 18 people, something like this. I mean, you're in danger of having a committee that's going to be...
Scott said as long as he's under 20.
Okay. I will tell you that in order to have a committee that actually gets something done, as opposed to merely rubber stamps whatever the loudest voice says, you're better off having a smaller group. Because that way quieter people's voices can be heard. So that what I'd say to this, I agree with the idea that let's make sure that we've got at least somebody, ideally potentially even a couple of people who aren't sort of, you know, who perhaps it's people who have children who have graduated in the past, and not even necessarily just very recently in the past, but perhaps, you know, we may have you know, some of our more senior citizens who would be interested, who've had children who've come through the district and done that. Again, I mean, there may be somebody there who fits in, but I think getting a variety of voices, but I'm just worried about a committee of 20 isn't going to get much done that's actually, I mean, they're going to end up...
But remember,
my concern will be they'll end up rubber stamping whatever it is, whoever is sort of the loudest voice, or Scott sort of wants to get through, as opposed to actually going and, you know, being able to raise opinions and conversations.
If you want to name fewer people, or you don't want to appoint people, again, this is his job. This is what he does. And he said he was the one who made the suggestion, because I felt the same thing about the size of the group. And he's like, you know, you're going to have people that aren't going to be able to make things and stuff. So he felt good as long as the number was under 20.
Okay.
If you don't want to name anybody and you just want to go with the one rep, or you as a board want to say, you know what, let's find 3 people that don't have children, I'm fine. I'm fine with that too. I will not, just so you know, I'm not a part of this committee. I'm not a part of the advisory. I'm coming to the first meeting, but after that, I'm out too.
Okay.
I'm out. So.
I'm almost interested to see who the various administrators appoint as I see that list, and as we see that, we see what the breakdown is. I'll have a sort of better idea personally as to where else, are there obvious places where there are holes.
Well, the first meeting is a week from tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm conscious of that.
So we're not going to have a lot of time.
I'm not sure how you get everybody in place in time for that.
Yeah, well, I think we'll, again, be good. I think we'll be good.
What does anybody else think?
Yeah.
I think if I'm being asked to submit a name, I need some direction as to who, because I can easily think of people with children, people without children, people at the schools that my kids are in, people who have kids in schools that my kids are not in. My mind already had it, I've already written down my kids. I would just need some direction as to what we're looking for.
Yeah.
As long as people come open-minded, I'm not as concerned with the breakdown of where people are located. I mean, it's an advisory committee. Hopefully we're gonna, we make the final decision.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, that's the key, is the advisory committee. You don't want to have a committee and then sort of say, I want a committee that's functional and get something that is of use such that we will then be able to take it into account.
Yeah.
Frankly, I like David's idea because you're starting the committee right now with 10, and then it would be 16.
You like limiting it a little bit?
I agree with what he said on that.
Mm-hmm.
Take us out of it.
Well, so we're not, I mean, yeah. How quickly are the building principals or administrators going to have the names?
We'll be able to have the names pretty soon.
There's 11, sorry, I left out Ambrose. I apologize.
Yeah.
So I mean, but how? I'm just thinking that, I mean, if we can get that, we can go and look, and we can go and then sort of go and say we should go and contact 2 or 3 other people or something like that. But it's almost, until I sort of see what the list is, it's hard for me to go and think who should the others be.
I guess what are you going to look at the list to determine what you want? Again, I just think that if we are, as building administrators, board members, bringing people that we trust fit this criteria, I guess I'm kind of in the mind of Alex that I don't know if it matters so much who we would go and get.
So the only thing I'm thinking of, I think that it's useful if we can get people who don't yet have children in the schools who may have a different. And so you can come with an open mind, but you are still affected by the biases that you bring based on where you've been, where you're at through things, so that the parent who has children who are going to be coming into the district can have a completely open mind in terms of what's going on, but will still have a very different frame of reference than the one who's got children who are, at Hickson versus the one who has children who graduated 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or something like that. And I think that in many respects, there are voices that would be useful to hear and at least to consider.
Well, and remember, this is an advisory, and so you're going to have, anybody's going to have a chance to come and give their feedback in focus groups. You'll see that information. The committee, the public will see that information. There's going to be surveys. It's going to be community open houses. So I don't want us to make it seem, again, kind of like we said, it's an advisory group. So if we want to do, and I would advise not to have somebody that's yet to have kids in the system, because they're going to have a lot bigger opinion. But if you wanted to go with the people who don't have, or will not have children moving into the system, and we want to say, let's find 3 people, then maybe 3 of you could, if you don't care with geography where they are, then maybe 3 of you can volunteer, or you can all try and find somebody, and you've got enough. When I could let you know when we reach 3. I don't want to overthink the advisory too much. I think we'll be all right.
This is it. I mean, I think, so to hear the way you say things and the way I read things almost imply different things. at the point in time I'm reading the advisory committee is reviewing and interpreting feedback.
Yeah.
And it's recommending boundary adjustments.
Yes.
And it's creating the options and things like that. It sounds to me like it's a big group that's going to have a lot of weight in the thing. But then what you're saying to me is that a group that's going to come in, and then we've got all the focus groups, and we're going to get opinions from everybody else,
Right.
and ultimately the board's going to come together, and that seems like that's slightly different. So I think if
I think that's the same. Because we're not going to have an advisory group or superintendent that says, the community all says this, but these 10 people are saying, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to be,
okay.
That's just my take on it, but.
I think what you want to try to do is eliminate any kind of perception that there is, I'll just say, any manipulation of a boundary line for the purpose of a family or families or person who happen to be on the advisory committee or happen to live next to somebody on the advisory committee or was best friends with the advisory committee member or something like that.
Yeah.
When you eliminate the perceptions of those things, you eliminate a lot of issues that can come up.
That's a good point.
Ultimately, Alex's point is the right one, which is that the advisory committee is there for that, and the board can make whatever decisions we see are appropriate, because ultimately we're the ones who are responsible back to the stakeholders in the district who've put us in this place in the first place. Comments?
Do we get a chance to see all of the principals?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
My only other concern is I would like to at least one other African American person.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
On the advisory committee.
Yeah.
So.
Any other thoughts? So, perhaps in that case, if board members have people who, as they think about this and they look at the right criteria, if they have people who they think would be worth considering, I guess, do you want them to send their names to you, or do you want the board members to go and reach out to the people and say, this is going on, are you interested? If so, I will put your name up.
Yeah, and so if we determine every board member, six members are going to do this, then you'll each reach out to somebody, and I'll send you the information, and you'll submit a name. If you want to shrink the committee a little bit, that's fine too. And we could, if 3 of you just want to each find a person, we could do it however you want. I'm hearing a little bit of worry about the size of the group, at least,
Yeah, I mean, I think, so just speaking personally, I'm probably going to want to see what the list of names is. If I think that's sort of broad enough, I'm probably not going to suggest somebody else. If I think there's a glaring hole, then I'm probably going to sort of try to find somebody and I can't tell you what a hole is going to look like to me.
I don't know when you'll have that list finalized.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But we know everyone on that list currently has kids in the district.
Correct.
Yes.
So if we're looking, then maybe that's the guideline, is that we find people that don't currently have.
Well, that's kind of where I'm going from, is how do you make sure that voice is there as well? Because I do think it's an important voice.
And be you all, if you're okay with that.
All right.
Say that again.
I'm happy to find people, but again, the idea was to have administrators and board members each recommend a person. I'm happy to find them if you don't want to find them. Again, if we want to find 6, if we want to find 3, and that's kind of the person that we're looking for, somebody that doesn't have children right now and won't.
Yes.
Anybody want to, is that what I'm hearing?
Maybe 3, just to kind of speed the number down just a little bit. I think I kind of get why he recommended so many, just to make sure, I'm guessing, that everybody's covered, so to speak.
Mhm.
I do also see David's point in too many voices and too many.
I've just been on big committees before, and I've seen how effective or not they are.
I do not disagree.
So maybe we just narrow it down to 3, and maybe
Okay.
those 3 are people that don't currently have kids in the neighborhood. I mean, in the.
That's So,
We know what you meant. We know what you meant.
so do you
I'm fine
just,
with that. And I'm happy to abstain
Okay.
my selection.
okay.
All right.
Who would like to? Christine, you got a list of 5.
Yeah.
I narrowed it down to 3.
Christine, Joe, and Keita, do you want to try it? I know, David, you said you're kind of just, it would be hard for you to do without looking at the list.
Yeah, I mean, I've got sort of some, and I'm just trying to think of parents I know who've graduated, you know, of children who've graduated relatively recently. I think the other thing is that if we have people who, I guess we're getting other people who don't automatically occur to. I'm just conscious this is quite a biased sample. I mean, the people who sit for a board is a biased sample before you start off with this, and you've got a relatively biased sort of sample here on any number of levels. And I'm just trying to work out how do we make sure that it goes a little more broadly than that. I guess you do that in part through the focus groups.
Focus group, open house, survey.
Yeah. So I mean, you're getting the voices.
Yeah.
If anybody, yeah, okay. I'd certainly, if somebody else is interested and they get in touch with me, I'd be happy to go and send their name forward, although virtually everybody who wasn't here has left now. So, or Steve or Michael. All right, good.
So Keita, Joe, and Christine, do you guys want to try and find somebody? Okay.
And you're going to send us this electronic.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And we have a week to do it.
Yes.
To find people who can, I say, this is just the, okay.
Again, if they
Thank
can't.
you. Okay. Any more comments on that?
Actually, I have a question.
You go for it.
Do you know now at this point, or can I email you later, John? When are you getting with Avery and PTO, or have you already?
No. That Avery PTO is a later one. Avery PTO is not until I think it's either December or early January.
Actually, to be honest, I was going to ask actually that. Can you? I know you've done some of the presentations. Can you in fact send the entire board just the other presentations you're going to do and when you're going to do them?
Sure.
So that just if any board member wants to go, they can do.
Sure.
Thank you very much. And I'd written myself a note to do that, and I'd forgotten it. So thank you very much. It should worry you that you read my mind. And entirely reasonably, yeah. I mean, let's face it. Okay. All right. Anything else on this? Special comments, Dr. Simpson.
Well, of course, our main celebration tonight is Dr. Stricker, and so we wanted to each have an opportunity to share, if we would like, about Dr. Stricker and give him the last word, so to speak. We have some special artwork here for him to consider. I will open with Amy, who sends her regrets. She is helping another board this evening and was sad not to be able to be here for Arnold. And she wanted me to read this tonight. It says, "Dear Arnold, the word that best describes your time on the board to me is professional. You're always prepared, thoughtful, and willing to ask difficult questions. You are also the only board member who is a professional educator. That background enables and at times compels you to ask questions and raise issues that other board members would not have considered. You frequently challenge us to do better, but always with the best interest of students at heart. The most effective board members continue to contribute even when they are no longer in the board because their voice remains in the board. In the minds of the board members who remain. Arnold, your voice will remain in the room. I will think of you often and will do my best to ask the questions I believe you would ask and to push us to do better as a district and as a board. Thank you for all the time and hard work you have contributed to the Webster Grove School District. You will be missed." Amy. I just wanted to,
okay.
I'll just share. Do you want me to share? You
Go
want me to
for
go
it.
last?
Absolutely.
But I just, too, wanted to echo Amy's sentiments, and it's something I actually said to your wife, Amy, when I first got to know you a little bit. It's just what a good human being you are. You exude goodness, and it's demonstrated in your interactions with people. You are the person who comes in to every board member at board meeting, you walk around, you introduce yourself, you say hi, you say good to see you, you ask how you are. You're always checking in with me. You're always, after the meetings, coming around, cleaning up the materials and supplies, things that you don't have to do, but people matter to you. You are certainly, you take this job and role very seriously, and anybody who's ever worked with you, any media that's out there about you talks about your just level of professionalism and detail. You know, you always come with notes, you're always taking notes. Every member of that cabinet knows that you're a public steward, that again, you have a lot of respect for us, but you ask us questions. You're looking at our materials. Again, always in a very respectful way, but you take your position very seriously. And it does show on all that you do. I will remember you for a lot of reasons, but I will think of you as being somebody that always, you have a guiding set of principles and beliefs. Certainly you're all about kids, but you, I think, really brought to the board a willingness to stand for what you believe in, do what you think is right, without, and doing so in a respectful way, but not having to always not conform, because I'm not saying people who don't agree don't conform, but you took stands. You said things when you know, you were a lone vote at times, and but I think that says a lot about you and your character. I'll certainly remember you for your chili recipe and your cooking, your cutting of the chilies in advance in support of that recipe. Personally, again, you always challenged me. You made me better. There were some things that you certainly did so in public ways. You did so in private ways too. You improved. While you did a good job of maintaining that governing, you also made operational and other suggestions that we implemented for the betterment of the organization. Certainly very involved beyond this table. You mentioned Ambrose. The schools that you serve really feel like they had a champion in you. They have a champion in you, and they appreciated that. When I shared the information, I heard from a couple that talked about that. You took your work on all the different committees very seriously, showing up, being about kids, and again, we're going to miss you horribly. You are a really good dude, and just wish you and Amy nothing but all the health and happiness that you deserve moving forward.
I think because St. Louis is such a small town, of course, I know that my sister is very good friends with a teacher who worked for you and with you, Jen David, and she let me know that I was going to be joining a board that had good people on it, but specifically she mentioned you, and that you're someone who rises up others. I don't know, I can't think of the right word for that. Advocates for, but also holds others up. And I'm really appreciative, Arnold, of your ability to ask tough questions, and they're always really good questions. And I never had a doubt that you wanted us to move forward academically as a district. And personally, I envied your ability to read academic progress reports. So thank you, and good luck to you.
Thank you.
I thoroughly enjoy getting to know you, Arnold, and you bring such good insight, and I value your education background. I wish I had a little piece of that to take with me, because you always do ask questions that it never even occurred to me to ask. And then once you ask it, it's like, oh, really, that's a good question. You do always have the kids at heart, and this calm demeanor, I think, makes it really easy, make you someone that's really easy to work with. And I'll miss seeing you walking your dog in the neighborhood and cheering for the Razorbacks. You're still going to be on the radio.
Yes, still on the radio.
We'll still hear your voice and see you around.
I can pretty much say ditto to just about everything everyone has said. The one thing that I can add, I don't know if you guys can hear him pushing me to make motions. And so I will definitely miss that. I will miss you encouraging me to be a better person. I can only strive to be the same kind of board member that you have been. agree with Christine. I wish I had, and Joe, just a little bit of that knowledge. That will be missed for sure. And we will miss you.
Thank you.
Alex?
Yeah, haven't known you for too long. We ran a really intense race against each other.
Glad it's over.
Glad that's over. But no, I've always enjoyed your perspective with your background. I mean, the only person with an education background on the board. And I agree. I think your questions are always so good, and I'm like writing them down. Like, I gotta remember to try to think that way. And yeah, you'll be missed. And I really enjoyed getting to know you.
Thank you.
So so I want to thank you and your wife both for service to Webster in different ways. She had the misfortune of teaching some of my children, so. No, I've appreciated everything that you bring, and yes, you bring a different view to the board. But I think first and foremost, and I think if your enduring legacy is that everything you did, it was obvious to everybody you had the best for all of the children of the district at heart, and that's what drove you. And if that's the legacy you leave behind, and if that's whoever replaces you and of others on the board, if that is always their focus, then whether we agree or not with how we do that, if we're all trying to achieve the same good, then good things will come of that. It's good at times that you have a voice of dissension, that other people go there when it's all coming from the right place, and your thoughts always come from the right place. So thank you very much. You will be missed. We wish you both a great deal of luck. I hope everything that goes very well. With your personal issues as well. Hope that will all resolve itself quickly too.
Thank you.
And you get a chance to say something
right.
now.
No, I want to thank my wife.
It's always a good place to start. A wise man. You could probably stop there. You're doing really, really well.
We'd be doing well there. No, and those people who supported me along the way, in the election, and were encouraging, and the community for their overall support. It's when you go door to door and talk to people, and you knock on doors, and people. Some are anxious to talk, some don't want to talk, some want to talk about some real difficult issues. But listening is a very big skill that I think everyone here employs. And it's important to listen to really what people are saying, not necessarily the words they're saying, but sometimes they cannot communicate exactly what they want to say, but they're trying to get it across. But the things what I ran on, that I will work to examine school district expenditures in relation to academic outcomes, to focus efforts to reduce the achievement gap among students by holding academic excellence paramount, and rebuilding trust between the school district and taxpayers through clear and candid dialogue. I see progress in all of those. I see some progress more in some than others. I don't ever think that you've arrived at, that's 100% complete, because there's always somebody who will say, well, you didn't communicate this to me, or that wasn't clear. But one of the things I do know about excellence, and this relates to kind of sports and my background in music, and also in cooking. And I'll use this illustration that if you have a knife and it's dull, you have more of a chance of cutting yourself than you do if you have an extremely sharp knife, because you're going to exert different kinds of pressure. And when you exert different kinds of pressure, it's not going to go exactly like it's supposed to go. So the sharper the knife, the less likelihood you're going to cut yourself. And if you continue to hone that knife and get it extremely sharp and keep it extremely sharp, and you're always trying to hone that knife and get it sharper than it was, that's where we need to be as a community in supporting the students in this school district. The other thing, as it relates to sports, like Simone Biles, who just blowing the socks off the gymnastic world in what she does. And she makes it look very, very simple. It looks dangerous, but she makes it look simple on her floor exercise or on the balance beam or whatever she's doing. But it comes from a lot of time that you don't see her struggling or struggled along the way in refining those skills and refining everything that she was doing. I always think of Michael Jordan. John and I have talked about this. After practice, would go shoot 500 free throws. Why does the guy have to shoot 500 free throws? He's Michael Jordan. Well, he's Michael Jordan because he does 500 free throws after the end of practice. That's why he's Michael Jordan. And then I think of my clarinet professor who continually was practicing, was Eastman School of Music graduate, continually practicing. And then drawing something from my music career as a band director at Wentzville School District and a music teacher there, is that your band is only as good as your last chair player. Your team is only as good as your worst, like the Cardinals, we use the Cardinals, you're only as good as your worst hitter or your worst pitcher. And the school district is only as good as that student who is struggling. And when we can raise that student up, then we are honing that knife. Then we are really doing some great things. It's been a gas. I love each one of you very dearly. You encourage me. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, for those listeners out in listener land, this is actually a sand dollar on my head. And it's really I hatched from an egg and I left part of the egg on my head. No, I had some skin cancer removed, and I'll do my cancer commercial. Having had prostate cancer, colon cancer, skin cancer, and I had a bone marrow biopsy about 2.5 weeks ago, which I have a condition that's okay right now. But what you do, early detection is wonderful. It's important. So my commercial to you is make sure you get your well-man exams, make sure you get all the blood work you're supposed to get done, and go see the doctor, don't be afraid, and listen to the results and find out what they are and how you can take care of those things. Early detection is great, thank goodness. No chemo, no radiation, so I was very fortunate, but early detection. So that's my cancer commercial.
Want to present those?
As is the tradition, we have a couple art pieces and for you to look at, and you get to take one home. Somebody might have an opinion here.
Do you want to come up and make the decision for him?
But these are two children from Steger for a specific reason, who two pieces of artwork. And so one will adorn this room and be representative of that voice that remains, and the other one will go to the Stricker's new loft. So you don't have to make a decision right now, but I did want to present these to you. Thank you.
And I really appreciate the board. It's great having a variety of multiple backgrounds on the board. Mine just happened to be education, and I just happen to digest reports like that very easily because I did that a long time. But you each bring a unique perspective, and perspectives that many, many times I was not thinking of. So thank you for your contribution to our community.
Thank you very much. Okay, we now move on to the second opportunity for public comment. Mr. Barr? We can forego the preliminaries.
When I looked at the agenda online for this meeting, and I saw that Arnold was leaving, it was a shock, and I was kind of stunned, actually. But at the same time, I kind of said, Arnold? Cardinals. Arnold, Cardinals. Another one out. Just to add a few things from the cheap seats. Arnold, to me, he is a man of character, as John said, but his main character trait to me is humility. I have never known him or seen him beat his chest brag or boast about anything. And I think the world could use a little bit more humility these days. I think he's really a quiet, soft-spoken leader. He's not loud, but he's quiet, calming, and effective. And I think you're part of this board, and I think this board has brought out the best in you, and I think you have brought out the best in the board. I think it's been a really strong symbiotic relationship. The fact that you are an educator for 31 years, I think when you guys go to look and fill his position, I think it's a requirement that somebody on the board have education experience. I think if somebody doesn't, I think that's a real shortfall. And I think Arnold has proven why it's so valuable. You're right, he's always prepared, he always does his homework. Even more than David Addison, he asks the most and the best questions, I think, of anybody on the board. And sometimes he even pushed it a little bit too far, Arnold. I mean, you will go on and on asking questions, but it's always for a good reason and a good cause. At my former company, the Ralston Printing Company, we had a performance evaluation criteria, which was called Courage of Conviction, which I continue to this day, I love. And John, you said, Arnold, there were several times I remember where there were issues where it was like 6 against 1. But Arnold stood his ground. He didn't fall. He had the courage of conviction, and even though he would lose a vote, he would not give up on his views and his conviction. And I just think that's very, very admirable. Of all of the board members who have contacted me at times over the years, Arnold contacted me and spoke to me and wrote me more than any board member. And I think in the 20 years I've lived here, sometimes he'd call me on the phone and we'd have a conversation. Nobody else did that, but Arnold did. And I gotta tell you, it endeared him to me because it's like, it made me felt that I mattered, that I was of value, and that is so, so important. One of the last things I said where I had most fun with Arnold was when he and Ellie at the radio station, I got interviewed like 3 times over the last several years, sometimes over the phone, sometimes in the studio, but he's a terrific interviewer, and it was just really fun. Those were like fun times. Finally, or second to last, I know you're a music teacher, and I thought about this today, that one of my favorite movies is Mr. Holland's Opus. And if you remember the last scene, where all those students come, and he finally gets a chance to play his opus, that's the feeling that from the cheap seats I impart and want to share with you, because you have had that impact. The last quote, given this is a school, is from Longfellow. Lives of great men all remind us we too can live our lives sublime, and departing, leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. No, you're not departing our life, the world. You're just departing the board, okay? But you're leaving some really big footprints. All right, and thank you. I'm going to miss you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. Any other public comments? You want to say nice things about your husband?
Oh, it's just been wonderful to be a part of this community, because I taught for 16 years and got to pass off and let him continue on the board, and it's really special. And yes, we're selling our house, and everybody who we even have remote contact with is like, it's a great place, you're gonna love it, and they're all coming for the school district, and that's what's bringing them through the house. So, it's been wonderful to be a part of the community, and loved getting to hear the stories still. Only the ones in open session.
Of course.
No, it's good. Good. Well, we thank you for your service over the years to the district as well. Thank you very much.
Yes.
All right. I will, if that's it, I think it is. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda. Dr. Stricker?
Make a motion we approve consent agenda items 8.02, 8.03, 8.04, 8.05, 8.06, 8.07, and 8.08, and 8.09.
Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
And Dr. Stricker, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion for adjournment.
Second.
Very good. All in favour?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
And we do have a cake, if anybody is interested. Sherry was a little bit nervous when she went to pick it up. They said, cake for Dr. Strickler? And she's like, oh my gosh!
It wasn't the first time.
So if you look and you see that they've gone and someone's gone to lick their finger and moved it around in a very delicate manner. Oh.
If you have room, I know
Right.